Thank you for joining us for the first episode of Proudly in Conversation, the podcast where real voices open up and have the conversations we need to have as a community. Each episode, I will sit down with people from across the community whose experiences and stories help us understand the world we live in a little better. Today's guest is Dame Kelly Holmes, double Olympic champion, British Army veteran, and one of Britain's most decorated middle distance runner. A sporting icon whose career made history at the Athens 2004 Olympic Games and whose influence transcends the track. In this episode, we talk about what it's like serving in the military before it was legal to be openly LGBTQ+, the importance of visibility, the impact that hiding her authentic self had on her mental health, and the role inclusion plays in sport. I'm your host, Simon Blake, and I'm honoured to welcome Dame Kelly Holmes. So for listeners who didn't watch you smash those Olympic races in 2004, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Yes. Thanks for having me, first of all. So I'm born in Kent. I had sport in my life from a very young age. And when I was 14, I had two dreams. One was to be an Olympic champion and the other was to be in the military. I joined the military a month before I was 18. I became a first Olympian when I was 26 and ended my Olympic career after winning 2 gold medals. Had multiple wins at Commonwealth, Europeans, Worlds and previous Olympic Games. And I was also in the military for nearly 10 years. So those two dreams came true. And since then, I'm retiring. I've retired twice, maybe about 5 times now. A charity founder. It's been going 18 years, helps disadvantaged young people with areas of deprivation. I've done mentoring programs, businesses, multiple things. And came out as a gay woman 4 years ago in June 26th, 2022. And I've been on a different journey since that.
And for those who can't see, wearing amazing nail varnish today. So have also been doing lots of that. But not many people can say 2 dreams that they had when they were 14 came true. But could you just say a bit about being in the military during that time? It was before it was legal for LGBT people to be in the military. So very different than it would be for those who are in the military today.
Yes, you're right. And I say dreams, but I've decided I have to change that because I always think like you wake up from a dream. So then there's a reality of trying. So I had the dream, I woke up and I went for it and finally got it. But yeah, in the military, look, when I joined, I didn't really have a label for my sexuality. I just sort of was me. I was a junior international athlete and that's all I was, Kelly, you know. And it's when I joined the Women's Royal Army Corps, I realised at that stage I probably was attracted to women and because they'll kiss me and it's like, oh, fine. There was also a ban that was in place, meaning that it was effectively against the law to be gay from 1964, which, for those that don't know, lasted until 2000. I was still serving until 1997. So my whole military career, I was serving through the ban. Now, the thing is with it, anybody that was potentially gay, bisexual, or however they might have presented at the time, given the language was a little bit different back in the 80s, 90s, kind of you just knew. It was like an unspoken word. You didn't have to say. You just found your tribe. It was the hierarchy, and obviously the more that level that was had put it in place. What was it like? I loved my job. I literally loved being in the military, having wanted to be in since I was 14. And the consequences of being found out that I was gay would ruin everything that I'd ever wanted. My career, I could have been chucked out, could have been jailed, could have been sexually, verbally, physically abused, which some were. I was raided, so at 22, quite a young age, raided, which means we call it now a witch hunt. People from the SOB or the military police would come into units and they would basically ransack your room and your living space. And what that would mean is if you went home, you were burgled, the perpetrators still being in there, but ripping through your belongings to find out if you were gay or you may be gay. Yeah. And this is the thing, is if you were or maybe. Yeah. It wasn't always people that definitely were, because they might not have known. It was people that had accused them of, or somebody who knew they were going to a hierarchy.
Yeah.
So, of course, what happened then, it's affected me as a young person because I was petrified. Like I was so terrified, one, of the raid, because they weren't going to find anything at that time, but I was just petrified of losing my career. I loved it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what else I was going to do at that time. I wasn't back into elite sport. And so that sort of stayed with me throughout my career, which is such a shame because it made me have a love relationship with the military.
Yeah. And I was at the Fighting with Pride ceremony last week as part of Pride Month, as we're recording this, where it was very, very moving in that you had people who had served under the ban and suffered the consequences of being found out and campaigned to change and lift the ban. And then people who are in the forces now who were talking about how much more inclusive it was and being thankful for all the work that had been done. And I know that you were involved in the Etherington Review, and just are there any sort of key lessons from that which you could just share?
Yeah, I think firstly, the fact that you have the different eras is really important to bring people together. I think the younger generation understanding what maybe the old generation, all those that went through the ban, felt, suffered, and what they did to fight for the younger generation's rights, to allow them to continue to serve. Because you remember, everybody in the military was still, they were still soldiers or whatever they want to call it, if they were Navy and Air Force, they call themselves. But, I think that's important to see both sides.
Yeah.
For the older generation to be, kind of pleased that younger generation can now serve. I think that's really important to have that. Part of the Etherington Review was actually reaching out to veterans who had suffered in the ban, because you have to remember that a lot had detached themselves from anything to do with the military because of a real, in some cases, hate, in some cases, hurt, and divide of how they felt their service was. A lot of people like myself are very proud to have served for a country. Others feel a real sense of, injustice.
Yeah.
Now, the Etherington Review obviously gave people a chance to get we ended up through that review finding a lot of veterans that were able to come forward, tell their stories, which led to a apology by Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister. Badges being given back, long service medals, which you have to serve at least 15 years to get a long service medal. They were ripped off of people. Berries, which is your regiment, being taken away. Multiple things happened. And since that review, they're all now coming back. Yeah. And people obviously are going, I think you mentioned your husband, partner.
Ex-partner.
Ex-partner. Ex-partner. Going through the process of getting financial reparation back, which absolutely is not enough for certain soldiers, but at least it's something.
Yeah. And I think that's the key bit, isn't it? It's a justice of any sort always carries with it sort of that edge where it should never have happened, but given that it did, what can you do to make reparation?
Yeah.
Can I just ask to that sort of bit within you, which is the joy and the pride, at serving, but also knowing that it's impacted you moving forward. How did you then, through either the athletics initially, but then into coming out 4 years ago, and what was the journey to sort of reconcile all of that and find your next steps?
I think that the fear was so deeply ingrained in me, it stopped me kind of functioning the way that I would have if I'd just been openly out, because of course you're just holding back on everything. You put a barrier up, you're a very different person because you're still scared. Now people go, oh, but the ban got lifted in 2000. What people forget is in international sport, which I was in, no one was out openly. Yeah. Not one person in Great Britain, male or female. Wow. So I had no role models. I didn't know it was safe to be like that. And I still had this sort of hangover that I thought I could still be jailed if I admitted having served during the ban, because I was so detached from the military to protect myself that I didn't find out that it would be okay. So what happened with that, of course, over the years, both in sport and post-sport, it really affected my mental health because I was always so worried, like scared, witless of being outed because of course people knew when I served, and the people I served with, the people I saw knew I was gay. But when you're in the public eye, you have another layer on top of that because you don't know how people are going to treat you, the judgment, whether everything I'd done in my athletics career was going to be kind of tarnished by people's views on me. And maybe I gave other people too much respect, if I'm honest. You know, I gave other people kind of a hold over my life in a way without them knowing. With the army, it was difficult because I was also made honorary colonel of the Royal Armour Corps Training Regiment, and I was that for 6 years. Now I've only been out for 4.
Okay.
So I was also going back into the military, thinking that if I had announced that I was gay, I could still be in trouble, having taken on a role that's a very high-ranking role. And bizarrely, I just thought, you know what, if there's anything they can give me back, it's to give me the pips on my shoulder and have a bit of respect without them still knowing my story.
Yeah.
But the impact of all of it was mental health issues. Like I really did. And I don't think people really understand that because having seen me achieve what I did in sport, you know, 13 international medals, the first woman to win 2 gold medals for Great Britain, kind of this sort of idolised sporting person, yet deep rooted in me was just something that I couldn't control. It really caused me breakdowns. I became a self-harmer. I'm clinically depressed. I've had multiple things happen because you're holding it in so much, you know, and you don't know where to go with it, and you don't feel safe in the public domain. And being old, slightly older, I don't just come out going, oh, you know, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to those that can live their life authentically now. You know, I lived through the 80s, the AIDS epidemic. Everything was very underhand in the dark cellars. You know, you didn't want to be part of the hatred that was out there.
Yeah.
You know, being a public speaker, going to corporates where you can hear different layers and sides. I became this sort of, you know, I would never pick up a pride badge. I didn't know about the community. I didn't go to a pride. You hold your back self in so much that you're not really your true, authentic figure of you. I was what people needed me to be, you know, a veteran, which people hold in high esteem, an Olympic champion people hold in high esteem. I talk about leadership, high performance, then mental health, which I associated with life. I didn't have to speak about anything else, so that was a protection. Yeah. But then that just started to just pull me down. I was getting exhausted. I hated me. I hated everything. I hated not being able just to breathe. The exhaustion of not just having a normal conversation, meeting people outside of my friendship group, even people that I'd worked with. There was a very big kind of marker there. I'd go to that point of conversation, then you're not coming close to me. Yeah. And that's exhausting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the bit. Talk to me a bit about coming out in 2022. I mean, that it must have been a really big deal. And yeah, just tell us a bit about it.
Yeah, so the journey started probably a year before that, officially, let's say. I had a night where it got pretty bad and I basically thought I was going to take my own life. It got to a point I just couldn't cope with exhaustion. You know, at home we were in lockdown, you're sort of inside yourself a lot, aren't you? And especially when you feel alone with those thoughts, even though I had really close friends, really close family, they don't get it if it's not them. They don't have that association that I had with the military and the athletics and the turmoil. And most of my friends at home are heterosexual, so none of them really knew that feeling, let's say. Anyway, to cut a long story short, during that period of time, the internal thoughts were just so bad that I just couldn't cope. But then I just thought to myself, hold on a minute, isn't it my right to live? Like I've done so much. I've done so much for the country. I want to live, but I don't know how to do this. So that night I reached out for help, which is what I always say to people now. You know, it's so important that you reach out for help. Absolutely, because your life is absolutely worth living. And once I clicked into that, I was like, nah, I'm doing something about this. So I manage, again, public eye does have a bit more layers because it's wider than just your friends and family. And don't mean that, you know, in a loose word either, but it's just different. And so anyway, I managed to find a guy that was working with Gareth Thomas. Gareth Thomas is a Welsh rugby player who'd come out post his career and obviously HIV, which he was outed with. So I felt that this guy would probably get it. So I found a safe person. I spoke to him about it. I don't know how, but I did. Then I had to go on a journey. After speaking to him, I said, could we do a documentary? Because I was very aware that if I did do it, it had to have layers behind it. It had to have reason why I'd left it so late, to say publicly, the trauma that I'd got in the military, so that it actually maybe unleashed that for some other people.
Yeah.
I'm now 39 plus 16, 17 even. Oh no, help. Whereas, I felt I couldn't just do this social media thing either. I needed to make it very thought through and thought provoking so that it bridged the gap between, humanizing the conversation, making it more viable for people that didn't have a connection with the LGBT community and world, make them understand what I'd gone through, so that why it would be so hard to come out. And then I had to go to the military. Because I needed to go to the military because I was still scared that I could be jailed. I'm going to do a public thing and then I get jailed. That wouldn't really be the right. And that was just a fear that I had. It was a fear that I should never, ever have had on my shoulders, but it was one I internalized. It was irrational. Like most fear is irrational. Anyway, I found a lady who was a brigadier, going to be a brigadier, who I had guessed had served throughout the ban, because she's still serving now, and she started the LGBT forum. I kind of had an inkling, so I approached her.
The gaydar was out.
Yes, I approached her and I just said, look, if I did this documentary, what would be what's the word? What would be the implications? And she said, nothing. I then went to a general because I thought I needed to go to a male, straight general, and say to him, tell him my story, and he apologised. He said, I cannot believe, like Dame Kelly Holmes, I'd got an MBE for services to the military, I'd done all this stuff, I can't believe how you've lived your life like this. And it was down to the military that I serve, that I thought, and he actually apologised to me. That just took every layer of fear away, because I felt now I'm vindicated. And so I did a documentary called Kelly Holmes, Being Me, that came out on 26th of June 2022. It had all of those sort of things in it, and from that day on it changed my life forever.
First thing, glad you're still here.
Second,
glad you reached out for help. And third, glad you got the apology and got the story out. And I think for anyone that's listening, in our heads, it can become bigger and bigger and bigger, and that reaching out for help when it feels hardest is one of the most important things we can do. And the other bit, of course, mental health first aid is where I came from before, our dear friend Poppy Jaman.
Exactly.
And the other thing for all of us is that sometimes we also get an inkling. And if we get an inkling, ask someone if they're okay, so that the person who may not be okay is obviously, once you ask, they get the chance to say, I need your help.
And just say, I'm always here for you. If you need someone to speak to, I'm a person, whatever. I think, reaching out to someone you feel like is suffering, not always with the, are you okay? Because that general thing is, that barrier is yes. But it's kind of sort of saying, don't recognise, you seem a little bit down, I'm always here if you want me, here's my phone number. They're just reaching out because you do have an inkling. But I always say, people, even at the military, or people that go, well, I thought you were anyway. I said, that doesn't give me my freedom. You thinking that I am doesn't allow me to be free. It's just your thoughts on my life. It's not my freedom to be able to be me. So I think that's the important thing as well. You don't diss somebody's journey. You don't ever say that their journey should be different, because that fear can be so rooted in to harming themselves or to whatever, that you have to work through the layers of that. But I think the more that we talk, the more we open up, all of us, and the more that we are unapologetically ourselves, hopefully that then reaches out to others.
Absolutely, and we never know who's listening and who's watching. So, there's presumably a before and an after moment. I suspect, that the immediate days after the documentary were all sorts of feelings. But
I went away to America for 3 weeks. The next day I was like, I'm going. I can't. I just went on holiday. It was so weird. And then I came back and, I'll tell you this story. It's so funny. I was asked, I think I did the Jubilee. It was the Queen's Jubilee as well. So I got to go on a bus and they had a big old motif of me from the Olympic win on the side of one of the buses. I thought, this is brilliant. Actually, no, that was just before. That was just before I'd come out. And I was on the bus with Gok Wan. And I said to Gok, I said, look, I've got something coming out. And I kind of said, I don't really know how I'm going to feel and how I'm going to handle this. He says, I've got your back sort of thing anyway. Then the doc come out and he says, come to Pride with me. I was like, no. Hold on a minute, one step at a time. He said, no, we're going on the ITV bus. So there's Alison Hammond, all of the sort of people in the public eye there. And I really had to kind of take a big deep breath, kind of put the pants on and go, okay, I'm going to come. Because I thought, on a bus. Because I'd never been to a Pride. So I was thinking it was a bit too much. So I thought, right, bus, stand on the bus. I'm waving at everyone. Everyone's calling my name. This is just after I've come out now, in July, I've come out. Yeah. Come back from holiday, Pride. So I was thinking, right, this is fine. Anyway, people started walking. I thought, why aren't we going? The drive of the bus comes up, black hands with this metal part. It says, we've broke down. I was like, what do you mean broke down? We haven't even moved. He says, I can't go. I was like, well, what now then? Are you getting another part? He says, we can't. So they all go, we're going to have to walk. So I've gone from literally thinking, right, okay, building up to this moment, I can get on a bus, to walking in Pride, thinking, what is going on? I don't know if I can cope. I've just come out. I've gone on a bus. I'm now walking. Then, and I wish for the life of me, there's a drag queen. I can see her, but I can't think. Anyway, the most loudest, brightest drag queen you can ever meet. I was meant to be on Pride. I got asked to speak at Pride on the stage. Now I'm thinking, oh my God, this is just going from, nothing to everything. But because the way the parade was going, we were going to be late. So lovely, bright drag queen says, let's go. I'll take you the back road. So now I've gone from this to being with the brightest. Might as well have had a Christmas tree with every lights on. Through the streets, we get to the back of Pride. I meet Linda Riley. So I've gone from, again, nothing to everything. Linda Riley, head lesbian of the world, diva.
Say, for those who don't know who Linda Riley is, there won't be many. That's an introduction.
Yes, Diva magazine, everything, has kind of, been instrumental in the LGBTQIA plus community that I know now.
For many decades.
Then I met my idol, sort of Emily Sandé, who's going to sing Read All About It, which was my song in my head. One day you're going to read all about it. It's going to be in the newspaper. That now happened. Now she's going to sing this song. I then go on the stage. I thought, right, just going to do it. I'm a speaker. I can do this. I'm speaking out. They've said apparently a million people in the city. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm doing all this thing. And that was my, that was my thing. Then I got taken with Linda to some event. I've seen Gok Wan. I've seen all these people now, and I just thought, oh my word, what has happened to my life? Immediately, I am now rainbows. I am full of everything. For that next year, I get taken to all these, British Diversity Awards, European Diva Awards. And I'm just thinking, what has happened to my life? What has happened? And then...
And was it a good what has happened?
I really embraced it. I really did embrace it. I loved it. I've met so many wonderful people from the community that I would just never have a connection with. I didn't know. That first year, I really embraced it. And then I thought in the second year, I just thought, hold on a minute. I don't need to be somebody that just goes from zero to hero. I've now got to find me within it. I'm still Kelly Holmes. I'm just now a free person who feels I can be who I want to be. And what it made me realise probably in year 3, being a public speaker in big corporates, what I realised is that the best way for me to be is to be the Kelly that's evolved, who now can be unapologetically herself, who can still be the Olympic hero, the veteran, have the complex layers, the mental health. But that's where my power is.
Yep.
Because I sit on stage of not wearing bright colours and having to be one or the other. I'm just saying, I need to use my platform for good to humanize this conversation, to say, if you're cheering me around, and a lot of my talks aren't about coming out, but a lot, they want me to say it. And I do all my normal talking and I play my videos, you know, Athens and everyone's cheering. And I go through everything and I'm being, you know, hopefully the motivation, the leader, the this, I give all of that. And then they've always says about inclusion. I say, you know, I hope and work. And then I just say, you know, you might not know this part of my story, but actually, and I tell them the story, I tell them about the mental health, I tell them the issues. And I just said, now, one thing I want to say, if you cheered me around that track and you were proud of me for everything I've said, if you now have an issue that I say, I'm a gay woman, it's your issue, go sort it out. Mm-hmm. I said, think about it. Yep. Now go sort out that issue of why you feel that. And most of them, they don't just stand up and cheer. Yeah. And they all come up because I feel like I can just say, this is just who I am. I can't change that, but I'm still that person. I'm still that person. I'm now free. I'm happy.
If we just go back a little bit to sport, and I don't want to talk about elite sport because most of us will never be elite athletes, let alone win multiple medals, you know, across games. But all of us have a right to be able to participate, to be included in sports at different levels and in different ways, and also to experience the physical and mental health benefits of that sort of activity. And we know that not everybody believes that is true, as we're seeing with the Challenge to Park Run, for example. But you know, leaving aside all of those politics, just be interested to just get a bit about your sense about what activity and sport can do for us as individuals, you know, for our well-being, our sense of belonging, etc. Yeah. I've seen you do loads of park runs.
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of park runs. I think, firstly, I do want to pick up on the other side because there will be people that listen. It's Stonewall. There will be people who listen and go, well, you had that opinion before. You had this opinion. You weren't with everybody. You were against everyone. And what people have to remember is, you know, I've come from elite sport. I've come from elite sport where there's lots of challenges with drug takers, with everything. And when you're in sport at that level and a woman fighting for equality and just as a woman fighting for equality and the same rights as men and the same competitions as men and the same money as men, you do fight. Yeah. It's simple as that. And so without being attached to the community and being very distant from it, of course, I'm going to stick up for myself, you know, because I wasn't even going to be understanding of other complexities. So I think it's only right that I did have an opinion where I was quite black and white before, and especially in elite sport around, and especially when the transgender conversation started to come, I was probably like, well, no, it's female sport, it's male sport. And I think it's only right that I put my head up there because, you know, I don't want people coming back and say, well, you know, I'm not going to lie. That was it. But what we have to remember is when people don't understand other sides of the coin and people's complexities and worries, then you form your opinion based on the only thing you know. Yeah. And I was fighting to race equally. So this side of it, I think there is still complexities. I think when you come to elite sport, there is lots more layers that we have to get past. And that fight will not be fought quick. And we know that from the round table we hosted jointly, right? Yep. Stonewall Rainbow Loses. I hosted with you and it was a great conversation. So I think in terms of this, I think, yes, we have to separate elite sport because that will not be fixed very quickly for trans people to take part. For openly gay people, you just hope they start coming out, right? When it comes to participation, I think it should be a human right to stay fit and active and use it as your well-being and your mental health, because we know correlation between the mind and the body it's joint, right? Yeah. And so do I think everyone has a right to that? Yes, I do. What I'd like to see is that whether it's in the media or whether it's in the community or outside the community, where I think the lines are blurred is everyone is just dividing everybody up and saying, well, you can't do this, this is it. But what people aren't doing is being positive around what's actions and what things are happening at the moment.
Sure.
So if we talk about participation with the community, I mean, I mentioned to you before we came on, I just went and opened the first Kent Pride Games. They did a old-fashioned sports day. Drag queens, trans people, gay, bi, bisexual, whatever, everyone. It was the most fun, hilarious day, I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of fun. And I thought to myself, and with our round table, there are some really great things happening in communities.
Yeah.
But I think the community as a whole don't know about them.
Yeah.
And that's where we're getting some of it wrong. Because if we say what is available first before we say what isn't going to happen, what isn't available, we will hopefully, again, bring people together a little bit more rather than trying to divide us all. Because we know Newcastle, I was there in... can't name them all, but cricket had really great system in place. Motor racing was there. Golf are trying to do some dual work. Up in Newcastle, they've got a Pride run. There's lots of Pride runs that happen all the time. Park Runner put in a Pride specific race on. There is a lot happening in some sports that if they could somehow get that airtime, sometime get that message out, it would allow people from the community, whoever you are, to go, well, at least there's something for me. Because my issue is when it's black and white, it's like there's no option, no opportunity. No, you can't. Actually, having had that round table, I thought, well, I didn't even know these things happen. So if I didn't know and I'm in sport, how do the community know that there is something for them? We're not excluding some parts of the community from everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message to get out. I think more people, hopefully, that are doing sport and inclusive sport in their communities, please somehow get the message out there in a more cohesive way.
Yeah.
And I also think it's a responsibility somewhere of the community collectively to come together on this subject to say, look, we know there's issues here. We can't fight everyone straight away, but we can stick up for what is out there and we can promote more so that we do have things that people can do.
Yeah. And just take a step back. It's really, it's important, isn't it, that we continue the conversations around elite sport. We know that there are lots of different, safety and fairness are the two guiding principles.
Yes.
And we know that there are lots of ways in which, where there is a will to find ways for people to participate at all levels in a safe and fair way, we find a way through. And that is our job. And not people, people who are experts combined with, and that will take a lot of conversation. I think that really important. We have those conversations.
Really important. And I think just on that very quickly, I think, when we were there, Charlie, I think, motor racer.
Yeah.
F3, I think she is. So I might get that wrong, but she's a very good driver. Trans lady, there's no issue in motorsport.
Yeah.
And she is at an elite level. And that was like, I thought that was brilliant, just because there's that. You might not be able to do everything at the moment, and we know you might never be able to in some sports, but let's go with the positives and support those that are.
And the equestrian, which I do, is all the same. But I think the important bit is that we have we engage in dialogue, honest conversation, difficult conversation, and work out with the principle, which is about finding a way through. And then that's exactly what the Rainbow Laces campaign is about at all the other levels. It's finding ways to encourage people to participate either as, in a sack race at Kent Pride Games, in a run in Newcastle, or in team sports, that there is so much that is out there.
Yeah, there really is.
And part of what we want to do is to amplify that. So we'll put the link through in the show notes on this. Gay Games happening right now. Euro Games, which are happening in Cardiff next year. So
I think if they were pushed out a lot more throughout the community, I think that would just unite people far more than divide.
Yeah, and that feels like a really important bit, and we've got to continue the conversations at all levels, but it has to be conversations. Yeah, people coming together in pursuit of inclusion, whatever that looks like, and it will look different. Yeah,
it's going to look different, but I think from whatever side you sit, you've got to, like you say, have conversations. Let's not keep trying to fight.
Yeah,
because some will win and some will lose in a fight. Yeah. But if we come together and connect, we can have great solutions, and we can have a starting point where people think there isn't one.
Yeah, yeah, and And they were, it's done on all sorts of different issues. We've got veterans category because we didn't used to have older people who would run. So we worked out we wanted them to not run, to participate. So we found them. We found
people
lots of different solutions all the way through.
I think disability sport took a long time to get to where we've got now with Paralympics. And back in the day, no one was seen at all. So I think we have to remember that this is sometimes a longer stretch when the nuances are very different, and the so-called norm is sort of rattled, and it's kind of like, okay, well, now we've got to go, what can we do? How can we solve some of the conversation that's out there? But there has to be a communication through many, many people, and remember, it takes time for change.
So just starting to move towards the end of this conversation. We could talk for hours, but just starting to move towards the end. If you could just look back at the different moments in your life, are there any moments that you would change, or has it all worked through into that was my journey and here I am?
Yeah, so I don't live with regrets, and I don't live with if only, because if only it's too late, it's gone. I just would it have been nicer to have an easier one? Yes, because even in sport, 7 years out of 12 years injuries and illnesses, I know why, because now I know the connection between your mental and your physical health. If I'm on reflection, I feel like a lot of those issues because of this thing inside. So I would have preferred to have an easier journey. However, would I have won 2 gold medals if I'd had an easier sporting journey? Probably not, because I wouldn't have had the fight. I had the fight for a reason. I thought that winning 2 or a gold was my destiny. I now realise it's part of my journey. Would it have been simpler in my life to have been out earlier? Yes, of course, because it probably wouldn't have caused a lot of my mental health problems. But would I be the person that I am today, and hopefully to be the person that I am going forward, to have this message in the right time of my life and in the stages of society? I feel that it's just, maybe it's meant to be. And what I do now is I wake up every day since the day come out very positive, very happy. I don't let anyone knock me. I will have that colour and that flair. I will question anyone that questions my integrity, my values, and I will stick up for everything I believe in, because I think it's the right thing to do. And I'll definitely always stick up for me now.
I mean, it's great, isn't it? That sense of, actually, I know who I am. What would you say to somebody who's on that journey themselves? Did you have a moment where you're like, well, you said that you had a moment which was, actually, I want to live. Mm-hmm. What would you say to somebody who's trying to work out, they're in there and it feels very dark? What would you want to say to?
I think it's part of this conversation we have about, like, really reach out for help, because you deserve, if we all deserve to, grow and be someone. And I thought back really to when my mum passed away in 2017, which is the only regret I have, that my mum can't see me to this day. That is one thing that, does really hurt, that she can't just see the Kelly she wanted me to be. However, I also would reflect on that and say, she's not here to live. I should be living my life. And anyone else has to realise that people that have gone before us, people that have fought for us, people that, kind of have allowed us to live who we want to be, maybe fight for them as well. Within your life, you've got the chance to be. Yeah. You have got the chance to be. You just might need a bit of support. And remember, you are valid. You are you. And the moment you can understand that you matter, it will just change your life completely. And I'd also say that a lot of fear is very irrational. Don't let anyone put that sort of into your head, that fear, because when you come out of it, you gravitate to all the people that are there for you.
Yeah. Just as you're talking then, so when my mum had died and it was with my dad, and he said, I'm so glad you gave us the chance to love us completely. Yeah. And that's what you're describing, isn't it? That opportunity for people to love you fully for who who you are.
Definitely. And now I realise that the community is that. So there's so many people within the community, so many organisations, fantastic organisations that will embrace you 100, if not 500% like Linda Riley. But no, honestly, I feel like anyone really, really kind of deeply scared or in fear or just doesn't know where to turn, the community have your back.
Yeah, find your tribe.
Yeah.
It was a real pleasure to talk with Kelly on this first Proudly in Conversation podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please do subscribe to Proudly in Conversation so you don't miss future episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's discussion, and you can get in touch via the email in the show notes. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Simon Blake. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.
LGBTQ plus you plus me, we're free.